that blank would depend on the context, right? So you have to read the whole paragraph, right, and understand the tone of the author, the key author is trying to convey, and accordingly the answers from the answer fit that in the given paragraph, right? Or if it's a sentence completion question, so it will be one statement with certain blanks. You have to select the answer options. Now, what makes this question difficult or challenging is the fact that sometimes the answer options can be really close, right? So you should have an understanding of the nuance. That in this case, would I use a which is subdued in meaning? So you have to understand, students, like, you know, in vocab, like if I talk about the English word, so there could be
recording in progress
or terse. Now these words have a same meaning, that somebody is, you know, uses very few words to say something, but this has, you know, very different connotation. So terse can be somebody uses very few words to the point of being rude, right? Gives a very short answer to the point of being rude, whereas concise would mean something which is short and at the same time it conveys the precise meaning, exact meaning of you know, the intended meaning basically. So there are certain variations in those words, so you should understand that. And for your level, I choose to believe it's not going to be very difficult, right? But the questions that we'll do today are going to be CAT level questions. Some of them are going to be easy. We'll take up easy to medium difficulty level questions, students, because obviously we just have one class, and if I take up something very difficult, then all the time would go into that one topic. And today I want to cover an array of topics. I basically want to give you an idea of the kind of questions can be asked. But the primary topics, your vocabulary, how to learn the vocabulary, next 10, 15 days, I think you should work on that. If you know those words, students, you'll be able to handle this section, because then it's all logic. And I think you all enrolled for you all, I think, enrolled for a technical program, right? So I'm sure you're already good with logic, you know. So therefore I taught you vocabulary so that you can learn the words, and then applying that is not very difficult. No, it's not going to be a challenge for you all. And the difficulty level, I'm sure it's going to be far less than CAT. And even if it is that of the CAT, at the end of the day, the competition is based on merit, right? So if it is difficult for you, it is difficult for everybody. If it is easy for you, it is easy for everybody, right? At the end of the day, you are competing with each other. So that is okay. Whatever difficulty level they give you, you are competing with each other. So everybody, I mean, you know, you don't have competition from across the country where people could be very well prepared to tackle CAT level questions. So I think that should comfort you to some extent. Give you a sense of comfort. So I want to do this fill in the blank type questions. I want to do, I'll tell you what is inference. I'll tell you, sometimes you're given a passage and you're supposed to summarize. So what is a summary exactly is? How do you identify from the given answer option which sentence is most suited to be the summary? Then we will briefly talk about, what is the difference between a fact, a judgment, and an inference? We will also do, if time permits, odd one out questions, wherein you have to identify which. So we can do one or two questions of each, right? One or two questions of each type so that we can cover as many topics as possible. So then we will do this, just give me a moment. I can't recall. The last sentence of the paragraph, right? So you'll be given a paragraph and you'll be asked to identify from the given answer options which one is most suited to the last sentence of that paragraph. Okay. So inference, last sentence, odd one out, and summary. So this is verbal reasoning part, student, reasoning. So it involves not just a good understanding of your verbal, like English, but also You should be good at reasoning and analyzing, higher cognitive skills. Okay, so I have to scroll through this book up and down. Just a second. So first we will do, okay, students, you have something called analogy type questions, students, right? Analogy type questions. Now, what are analogy type questions? Wherein, you know, you are given a relationship between two things and you have to identify what relationship would there be in two things that are given to you in the answer options, right? So if there's a certain relationship in saturated and wet, which of the following answer options would have the same relationship? So first you have to identify this and then you have to identify this. So this involves both logic and it also involves understanding of vocabulary, a good vocabulary, right? That's it. So if you look at this, students, all of you solve the first four questions before you, students. Identify what is the relationship with it, between these two, right? And then you, 1 second, see which of the following holds a similar relationship. Students, the author would, the answer options given to you might leave you confused because sometimes they would give you the reverse relationship, right? And you, when you're solving the questions hurriedly, you might just get confused and mark that as the correct answer. Sometimes the relationship could be very similar, can convey almost the same idea, but again, it's almost not the precise idea. Okay, so all of you solve question number 1, 2, 3, 4. Give me the answers in the chat box. We'll discuss all four of them together. Quickly, students. Yes, students, only one student has answered. Quickly, can we discuss? Quickly, students. I'm giving you a last 1 minute to everybody. Give me the answers in the chat box. Okay, students, so let's discuss this. Now look at this, students. What relationship do you have between saturated and wet? Right? What does this sign mean? That the relation that you have between these two, the same relationship you have in which of the following? Right? So when something becomes wet, too much wet, it becomes saturated with it. Right? It becomes saturated with it. So the correct answer here is D, that when something becomes too dry, it becomes arid. Right? So if something becomes wet, it becomes saturated. Now you don't apply, students, I'm sure, sometimes students tend to apply those scientific concepts or like understanding of like, I mean, they would go very deep into it. So one can say, just a second, students, let me just put my phone on silent. So don't think that, okay, so when something is wet, it becomes saturated with water, that means it becomes full of water. But dry and arid would not probably convey that relationship. But which one comes closest, students? Look, acrid is more like a bitter taste or smell, something like that. So it doesn't fit into this relationship. Far away and distant, no, right? Distant means something is, very far away and far away. So they're like synonyms. Far away and distant would be, at the best, can qualify to be synonyms. So no, these are wet and saturated, not synonyms. Drenched and damp. Drenched is something full, completely wet, and damp is like moist, slightly, some moisture. It does not convey that relationship. So from these four options, the one that comes closest is that if something becomes too dry, it becomes arid, just as when something becomes too wet, it becomes saturated. Right? Acidic and acidic are acrid. I mean, acidity is like one quality of acidic. Something which is acidic will qualify to be, can be called as acrid. Like it is one quality of something which is acidic. But wet, saturated is not a quality of wet. If something is wet, it need not necessarily be saturated unless it is too wet, right? Similarly here, something dry will not be arid. Something will be arid only when it is too dry. What is arid? Arid is like desert-like. What is arid? Desert-like. So when something is too dry, it becomes arid. Similarly, if something is too wet, it becomes saturated. Getting my point? So that degree, acrid is anything that is acidic would be acrid. So it doesn't convey that. This would be the extreme form of dryness and this would be the extreme form of wetness, saturated and acidic respectively. Right? So you have to understand this, students. The answers would be very confusing. Now, next, students, cacophonous and harmonious. Now here. Now, students, what is cacophonous? Cacophonous, if you remember, we did this word cacophony, cow, cow, unpleasant noise and all of that. Too loud and unpleasant noise, cacophony. And harmonious would be something just opposite of that, very peaceful, harmonious sound. Think of an harmonious sound, right? Very peaceful, very in sync, very pleasant, right? So they are basically opposites in that sense, opposites. Cacophonous, something is cacophonous, a cacophonous noise, a harmonious noise, sound. So beauty and peace don't qualify to be opposites. They are not opposites. We're looking at an opposite relationship here. Tempestuous and stormy, something which is stormy is tempestuous. So it is like synonyms. What is, I don't know whether you did this play in, this is a Shakespeare play, The Tempest, right? So it was about the storm in the sea. So they are also not opposites. Then we've got considerate and we've got sympathetic. So again, these would qualify to be synonyms. So D eliminated. The correct answer is A, which is bellicose and pacific. So what is bellicose? Bellicose is something which is in a fighting mode. Like you say, they are belligerent countries. She's very bellicose. She's very bellicose means she's always, ready to fight. Her personality is like always willing to take up arguments and fights with people like that. Bellicose nature, bellicose country. So okay, Pakistan is a bellicose country. China is a bellicose country. Pacific is, on the other hand, pacific, calm, serene, right? That is pacific. So here, these answer option A, they are opposites. The way cacophonous and harmonious are. Okay. Question number 3, everybody. So, kangaroo, the young one of kangaroo is known as Joey. The young one of kangaroo is Joey, right? The child, the baby of kangaroo is known as Joey. So here, students, lion and pride would be incorrect. Pride is a collective use for noun. A pride of lions. The way you say a bunch of grapes, right? You would say an army of soldiers, right? So similarly, you would say a pride of lions. A pack of wolves. Don't we say a pack of wolves, collective? So a group of lions is known as pride of lions, right? So obviously, this is not a collective relationship. Bevy and beauties. Right? No, bevy is like used. It's a collective use for I think bees, right, or some insect. So beauties, no. Foal and horse, right? Now, students, you have to understand this. Foal is a young one of horse, but horse is this side, and foal is this side. So we want the relationship parent and child. We don't want the relationship child and parent. We want the relationship parent and child. So therefore it would be lion and not this. Sorry, what is wrong with me? Therefore the answer would be B, goose and gooseling. Goose and gooseling. The young one of goose is known as gooseling. So same relationship as kangaroo and Joey. What answer did you mark for question number 4, students? Anybody? Question number 4. Question number 4 is capricious and fixed. Now, what is capricious? Capricious is something which is very volatile, students. Very fickle-minded, keeps changing, right? Not stable. Capricious is something which is not stable, volatile, right? So, and fixed is obviously fixed, not stable. Fixed would be stable. So these are again opposites. Now, which one is an opposite relationship? Can you tell me, students, in 4, which one is the opposite relationship? Anybody? Yeah, opposite relationship is C, fickle and decisive. Right? Don't we say she's very fickle-minded? Don't we say, students, she's very fickle-minded, he's very fickle-minded? That means they're not stable. Kabhi kuch kehte hain, kabhi kuch kehte hain. Such people are known as fickle-minded. Decisive is somebody very firm. Okay, I would do this. This is what I have to do. Firm. Fixed. Ek baar soch liya to soch liya. Like that. So this conveys the same relationship as capricious and fixed. Now, laughter and joy are not opposites. Agitated and uneasy are not opposites. They convey the same idea to a certain extent. Biased and judgmental are not opposite, right? Biased would be somebody who, you could be biased against something. You could be biased in favor of something. That means you have preconceived notions about it. You have preconceived notions about something, right? And judgmental would be people who judge a lot, very judgmental, who would, like to have an opinion on things and would like to judge a certain thing. So judgmental and biased are not opposites in any case. So the correct answer is C, fickle and decisive. So students, this is one type of questions wherein you would be given certain analogy. You'd be given certain relationship and you have to see which one is analogous to this relationship. This, it means, how do you read this? This is to this. What? This is to this. Whichever, right? So you will read it as this is to this. What? This is to this. Don't we do this ratio and proportion 1 is to 2? What? 50 is to 100. Like that. Okay, students? Okay, now next type of question, students. This was one type. This was vocabulary-based analogies. The next question type would be sentence completion. Now, students, sentence completion. So sentence completion is, students, wherein you have to, you'll be given a paragraph or a sentence. If it's a paragraph, it will be known as a close test. If it's a simple sentence, a short sentence, it will be known as sentence completion, right? But basically, fill in the blank type question, students. Now, what you have to do here is, how do you fill in the blank, students? Now, please understand this. Most of you will make this mistake that you will read the answer options first, and then you will try to plug in that what fits where, right? And then you will read the paragraph in a haphazard manner, back and forth. No, you have to take a very systematic approach to solve a sentence completion question, wherein you first read the paragraph in its entirety. You skip the blanks, obviously. You read all the remaining paragraph, right? Understand the message of the author. What is the author trying to convey? Right? What is the key idea here? What is he trying to say? What is his tone and tenor? Understand that. Understand the logical structure. How is the author telling you that story? That whatever he tells you in that given paragraph. So how does the author begin? What does he say next? What does he say later? Right? The meaning or the correct answer to the blank cannot just be solved on the basis of that particular sentence, but also what comes before and what comes after. Right? For every sentence, what comes before and what comes after, we're going to lay the context for it. Sorry, what comes before lays the context for it. And that itself would have certain implications for what comes next. So therefore, students, rather than filling one sentence at a time, reading one sentence, then reading the answer options, then trying to plugging in back to the given in the given blanks, would be a very incorrect approach, students. What you should instead do is that first you read the paragraph, the entire paragraph, be absolutely clear about what the author wants to say, and then see, because this is important for nuanced understanding. Sometimes the answers option will be very close, and you should know the exact thing that the author wants to say. That would certainly depend on what comes before that, and not just on that sentence. So therefore, to get a nuanced understanding, a very fine understanding of what or which word is required in a certain blank, you need to understand the central theme, the key idea, the logical structure, students. And then first you read the whole paragraph, be clear about the message, identify the logical structure, students, understand the tone, and then look, it says here, anticipate the words. That's somewhere in the mind. You should have some idea, okay, what's going to be here. If it is a compare thing, okay, maybe two distinct things. If it is a contrast, maybe two very different in a different sense, right? Like opposed to each other. If it's an idea reaffirmation, so maybe it's going to be something that is on similar lines. So when you read it, you get that idea, students, right? And then you scan the answer options to see that what words are there, right? And final answer you plug in, which you feel could be the closest answer. Reread it again, reread that portion again, and then decide the answer. Plug in once and then reread whether it fits there or not, students. Okay, so this is the approach that you will take to solve this. Now, what could be the idea, students? Like I said, it could be something, some comparison. It could be some compare and contrast. It could be some idea reaffirmation. It could be cause and effect. It could be idea transformation, right? So if you remember, yesterday I told you about RC students, right? What kind of uh, sorry, not RC, parajumbles. What kind of relationship can there be between sentences? It could be compare and contrast. It could be, something similar. It could be an idea reaffirmation. It could be idea transformation. It could be cause and effect, right? It could be so. And look out for words also, students. If it is compare and contrast, it would be something like on one hand, on the other hand, like as, like this, as this. Or it could be something like if you are if there's a contrast, it could be however, this, however, although, but. These are the contrast words. When you see words like however, although, be very clear that there's a contrast here for sure, and you have to look at the words that contrast the rest of the contrast with the rest of the statement. And then students, there could be like idea reaffirmation. So there would be words like similarly, um, in fact, on the same lines, such things. Then sometimes if there's an examples, for example, for instance, such as, these are the words used for examples. So idea transformation on a different note. For your idea reaffirmation, or even in comparison, sometimes there could be additionally. When you're listing out something, additionally this, also, additionally, such words. So basically, you have to take cues from the, when you read it and you're clear about the meaning, then of course you would be able to solve it, but sometimes the words can also guide you. So look at the words surrounding that blank. Is it a however? Is it a consequently? Sometimes when it is cause and effect, as a result, consequently, therefore, right? Consequently, therefore, as a result, these are the words that will be used. So now let's solve some questions. Just give me a moment. Students, 1 minute. So we'll do one second, students. Students, all of you, I'm not able to fit this in one frame. So all of you take a picture of this. Take a picture, and then I'm going to scroll it down and you take the picture of the rest, then you solve it, then we will solve it one by one. Everybody take the picture of this first page, exercise 1 till question number 7. Right? Now all of you take a picture of this till question number 20, till this point. And now you solve this question, students. Solve this question. Okay, students, now you solve it. All of you, please solve it, and we're going to discuss it together. 2 minutes, everybody. 2 to 3 minutes. Fill in the words from the given answer option, students, everybody. Last 1 minute, students. Last 30 seconds, everybody. Let's discuss. Sorry, we'll discuss in 30 seconds. Okay, students, so let's discuss this. Everybody, let's discuss this. Does anyone need more time? Any student, like 30 seconds, 1 minute? I can't give you time more than this. Is there anyone who would want to give it some more time in the chat box? Okay, so Ritvik says 30 seconds. I'm giving everybody 1 last minute. Everybody 1 last minute.
Recording in progress.
Okay, students, so let's discuss this. Now let me tell you the answers. Okay, so you check very quickly. Lord Buddha dashed his, let's discuss alongside. Lord Buddha dashed his kingship and became a hermit. So became a hermit. If he became a hermit, what he must have done to kingship? He must have given that up. And giving something up is known as abdicated. Abdicated. The king abdicated his throne. The MLA abdicated his seat. Right? Then the Indian government dashed slavery. Now slavery, what would government do to save slavery? Any sensible government in the world, not like the Taliban government, any sensible government in the world, legitimate government, what would it do to slavery? It would abolish it. It would abolish. Abolish means completely doing away with something. Abolish. Or abolish, this is the word. So students have to understand this. There are certain words, I don't know, the ones who are good readers in this class, who read a lot, you know, or who, if not even a lot, who have been reading the textbooks at least, or they read the newspapers. So we use the word abolish. So this policy was abolished, right? So abolish, slavery abolished, something which is done from the government or from the authorities. Something that is done away with. You won't say you abolished something at your home. Understand? You won't say my mother abolished this in our home. No, the government abolished, the authorities abolished. Okay. So some words have popular usage. Just एक word होता है foil. I think I told you this also in one of the classes. There's a word called foil. Foil means, like you could say the army foiled the terrorist attack, possible terrorist attack. Or the police foiled the thief's plan. So again, foil is used with the authorities, you know, just foiling the attempt of the thieves or the terrorists or whatever. The residents dashed the haunted house, students, right? What would anybody do to a haunted house? Leave it. So it would be abandoned, abandoned. The rain dashed after some time. Okay. So what after some time? Now you could either say that the rain intensified after some time, that means it became severe. But usually with rain, what do you say? And from the given answer options, it would be abated, which means lessen, lessen in intensity. And abate is the word used, students. The pandemic has abated now. That means it has become lessened. It has lessened in intensity. The shop offer dash in the off-season, students. Number 5. So rebates, discounts, right? Rebates and discounts. Shop offer rebate. Our rebate means like a discount. Tax rebate. Don't we say tax rebate? क्या होता है tax rebate? Taxation में जो आपको relaxation मिलता है, कोई discount मिलता है. Our government is dashed to confront any type of situation. Now, what would the government do? Question number 6. Our government is able to confront. He is dashed of solving the problem. 7. He is dashed of solving the problem. What would it be, students? Capable. He's capable of solving the problem. Confucius possessed what kind of mind now? Confucius, he's the god for the Chinese. So what would, what kind of a mind would Confucius possess? Capacious. Right, students? Capacious. Now, what is the meaning for capacious? Capacious is another word for spacious, you know. So in this sense, I think capacious would be more like, you know, a lot of like mind which is large, what should I say? With a lot of knowledge, a mind that possesses a lot of knowledge with very wide horizons, something like that, right? So capacious otherwise would mean something which has got a large capacity, actually having a lot of space. So from this, you can select that only as the correct answer. So if the word capacious does not strike in the first instance, when you are done with all the other answer option, something that does not fit in, then you would know, of course, it would be this. 9 would be, students, abbreviation. BA is an abbreviation, a short, a contraction of Bachelor of Arts. Question number 10 is abridged. Abridged versions are easier to read than the original versions, right? Abridged. What are abridged versions? Abridged versions are like, you know, so you have abridged courses also. Usually the word abridged is used in the sense of educational courses, right? So abridged would mean to make something shorter, like you have a regular course. The shorter version of that is known as a abridged version. For example, because of the pandemic, the 4 years of engineering have been is being taught in an abridged format. It has been turned into 3 years, something like that. So abridged version means shorter books. It was dash 10 at night. Question number 11. The answer to 11 would be, students, about. Question, it was about 10 in the night. The painting was hung. Question number 12. The answer would be above. 13, the Shah of Iraq was dashed from his country. 13 would mean that was banished from his country. Banished means he was banned, he was country. Okay. Prospero, a character of Shakespeare play The Tempest, was living in. Where was Prospero living? Exile. The exile is Vanvas. Just say Ramchand, Sri Ram Bhagwan, he went to Vanvas. The patient dash 15 would be bared his chest when the doctors examined his. Bared his chest means he showed his chest to the doctor. He uncovered it basically. Question number 16, we have to dash our own burdens. 16 students. Bear, we have to bear our own burdens. 17, Napoleon was killed in the dash of Waterloo. So what will it be? Battle of Waterloo. We all know this is a famous battle. The world, he was killed. Now, even if you don't know what Waterloo is, he would be killed in a battle, right? 18, the world is on the verge of a third world war. Dash is an economic transaction involving exchange of articles. 19 would be barter. You know what barter is? Exchange of articles, barter system. This premises is for 20, sale. So some premises, right? What is premises, students? Like, for example, the premises of the mall, the premises of the school, the educational institution, the area occupied by a certain organization or a building or whatever, right? So, these are very simple ones. Okay, so I've given you simple ones, students, on purpose, because obviously, like I said, I'm going to cover a lot of things today. But I gave you some idea as to how you have to go about it. That you have to understand the context, not just blind filling in. So now we'll do something of a slightly more, higher difficulty level. So just a second, let me. This is another type actually, not the same, but that's going to be of higher difficulty level. Just give me a moment. Do this, students. Please solve question number 2, everybody. Question number 2. Sorry, exercise 1, question number 1 and 2. Solve it. We'll discuss it together. Do both the questions, students, 1 and 2 together. Yes, students, done? Question number 12, the answer would be, I'll go back. It's okay. Now I don't have the answer key with me. That's okay. Yeah, please solve this, students. So let's discuss this. Students, let's discuss this. So George Bernard Shaw said that the contemporary social values could be flippant and dash. Right? Now, students, we don't know what would come here. We don't know. This is what you have to find. So how will you decide? You have to understand what the author is trying to convey. The author says flippant. And what is and? Will you say he is intelligent and stupid? Would you say he is intelligent and stupid? No, you will not. You will say he's intelligent and sharp. He's intelligent and hardworking. Isn't it? So it has to be, if you have to say two opposite things, you would say he is intelligent but arrogant. So if there is one positive and one negative, one positive word and one negative word, you'll use words like but. But when it is a negative and a positive, students, you will use the word and. Got my point? So here it says flippant. Now flippant means very superficial, very flippant, and very like something like fickle-minded also, right? Flippant, very non-serious, who's not serious about things in life. That is known as flippant. A flippant attitude. He has a flippant attitude towards life, right? Now the author uses an and, it's going to be something on the same lines. So out of these, it can't be important. Now flippant is a negative word. So look for a negative word. Riveting is something very interesting, right? Very interesting. Absurd. Okay, first let us eliminate the positive words. Important, riveting means interesting, and profound means something which is very important, significant. There are three positive words, they can't fit in there. You're down to inane and absurd. Now, even if you didn't know the meaning of inane exactly, you should know it is silly. Absurd, students, even though it is a negative word, it has a very different connotation than flippant. Flippant is somebody who's not serious, right? Now, what are we talking about? What is absurd first? Let's understand that. Absurd is something like ajeeb. Absurd is ajeeb. अब flippant का मतलब है non-serious. So ajeeb, it doesn't really fit in with that. You can say, for example, you say, it is an absurd remark. कि ये जो आपने जो argument दिया है, आपने जो reasoning दी है, ये बड़ी अजीब सी है, ये गलत है. Flippant कैसा? Flippant होता है more in the sense of casual attitude, non-serious, you know, that kind of a thing. So what are we talking about here? Contemporary social values. We're talking about the contemporary social values, right? Could be flippant and inane. Inane is like very silly. Right. Now, students, here the choice was very close between inane and absurd. मैं आपको इसमें एक ट्रिक बताती हूँ. देखिए, अगर फ्लिपेंट वर्ड ऐसा है जो बहुत हाई फंडा वर्ड है, हाई फंडा. देखिए, ये जो स्टेटमेंट है, ये आपके एग्जाम के लिए सेटअप नहीं हुआ है. दिस स्टेटमेंट इज नॉट मेड फॉर योर एग्जाम. आई थिंक आई टोल्ड यू दिस yesterday also. That paper setters have not made this question for you. This question has been drawn from somewhere, किसी book से, किसी novel से, right? कहीं से ये statement लिया गया है. अब ये statement तो इसमें जो एक literary style रहेगा जो author का एक जैसा रहेगा, किसी एक ही तो author ने लिखा है ना ये statement. अब देखिए किसकी बात हो रही है? जॉर्ज बर्नार्ड शॉ की लिटरेरी फिगर थे. कंटेम्पररी सोशल वैल्यूज, बड़ी हाई फंडा चीजें है. तो फ्लिपेंट के साथ इनेन ही जाएगा, एब्सर्ड नहीं जाएगा. एब्सर्ड बड़ा कॉमन सा वर्ड है. इस ऑथर, ये जो ऑथर हैं जिन्होंने ये लिखा है, उनकी लैंग्वेज बहुत रिच है, राइट? तो इन्होंने कैसा वर्ड ढूंढेंगे? फ्लिपेंट एंड इनेन. अब वो फ्लिपेंट के साथ कोई कॉमन वर्ड नहीं यूज डालेंगे, जैसे स्टूपिड और सिली और एब्सर्ड. ही वुड यूज द वर्ड इनेन. ऑल्सो सेकेंडली, Inane and absurd have different. Absurd is something which is peculiar. Peculiar. अजीब सी कोई चीज हो. यहाँ पर बात हो रही है flippant, silliness की. Flippant, non-serious, casual. तो जो टोन जा रही है वो it's more towards inane students. Difficult है. I'm discussing level of difficulty too. मुझे ऐसा लगता है आप लोगों को वर्बल के लिए, क्वांट्स के लिए मे बी आप थोड़ा डिफिकल्ट आए, बट वर्बल के लिए आपको लेवल ऑफ डिफिकल्टी 1 ही आएगा. बट आई एम जस्ट डिस्कसिंग द इजी, स्लाइटली डिफिकल्ट वंस. एक इजी कर लिया तो एक साथ डिफिकल्ट भी कर लेते हैं. Yeah, question number 2, students. Now look at question number 2. What is question number 2? You know, these questions, they test you for a sentence comprehension. They are part of GRE. If you've heard of the GRE exam, अगर आप लोग कोई भी MS करने बाहर जाते हैं, so GRE एक एग्जाम होता है. उसमें it is mostly for pursuing masters or research from abroad, technical courses के लिए especially. वहां पर भी इस टाइप के क्वेश्चन आते हैं. I mean, an internationally recognized test also feels that these questions are good at measuring the verbal reasoning and verbal ability skills of the students, right? So इसमें देखिए क्या टेस्ट हो रहा है. आपका कॉम्प्रिहेंशन. आप एक स्टेटमेंट को पढ़ के क्या उसकी एक सुपरफिशियल अंडरस्टैंडिंग रखते हो, या यू गो डीप इनटू द मीनिंग एंड एबल टू कॉम्प्रिहेंड द एग्जैक्ट मीनिंग. कल आप कंसल्टेंट्स बनेंगे, आपकी क्लाइंट की रिक्वायरमेंट्स लेंगे. क्लाइंट क्या चाहता है आपसे, व्हाट डज ही वांट, what kind of product, what kind of specifications, whatever product design कर रहे हैं, customers की क्या requirement, are you able to build that into the products. इसलिए आपके comprehension skills, आपको कोई document दिया जाएगा, जब आप उसको read करते हैं, क्या आपको उसकी exact precise understanding होती है नहीं होती है. Okay, so now question number 2, students. Look at question number 2. The answer is here. अब देखिए, अब पढ़ते हैं. Let's read the whole thing first. Dash the general had been told by the field staff that continuing war affair would be dash to his soldiers. He insisted on deploying more battle tanks. Right? किस चीज की बात हो रही है? That general को बता दिया गया था, general was told that if he continues the war, something would happen to his soldiers. आप खुद सोचिए, अगर warfare continue होगा तो soldiers को क्या होगा. Something negative. Negative और positive समझ लीजिए पहले आप हर sentence में. He insisted on deploying more battle tanks. He chose to continue with the war. अब देखिए ये पार्ट क्या है. He chose to continue with the war. ये पार्ट कॉन्ट्रास्ट करता है विद व्हाट हैज बीन सेड बिफोर. आपको बता दिया गया है दिस समथिंग इज समथिंग. अभी हमने जो यहां से देखा है कुछ नेगेटिव है, हमें वी डोंट नो द एग्जैक्ट वर्ड, समथिंग नेगेटिव. यहां पे बता दिया गया है कुछ नेगेटिव है. इन स्पाइट ऑफ दैट, इफ यू आर कंटिन्यूइंग विद समथिंग नेगेटिव अगेन, यू कंटिन्यू विद द वॉरफेयर, दैट मीन्स यहां पर कोई कॉन्ट्रास्ट है, राइट? So इधर it would be although the of continuing harmful, right? It is harmful. So he insisted on deploying. आपको ये समझ में आ गया पे contrast word है. Contrast के लिए we use the words like although. और अगर sentence का starting है students, please remember this. अगर sentence का starting है तो वो although ही रहेगा. But आता है हमेशा sentence के बीच में. Because भी ज्यादातर sentence के बीच में आता है. अब देखिए because नहीं आ सकता. अब आप you know when you have these pairs, एलिमिनेट व्हाट यू कैन एलिमिनेट. आपको ये समझ में आ गया यहाँ पे नेगेटिव है तो आप इंस्ट्रूमेंटल हटा दीजिए, फॉर्मिडेबल हटा दीजिए, इंक्रीमेंटल हटा दीजिए, इमीडिएट. बस ये यहाँ पे स्ट्रेट आंसर इज ए. सेकंड, बिकॉज आई थिंक द सेकंड पार्ट इज वेरी क्लियर दैट वी नीड समथिंग नेगेटिव व्हिच इज डेट्रीमेंटल ओनली. Students, solve question number 3 and 4. Students, just solve question number 3. Only question number 3. Okay, so let's solve it, students. The correct answer is exacerbated. Exacerbated. Answer option C, students. Ab dekhiye. The Senate warned the Prime Minister that if he did not accept their advice, the difference between legislative and executive arms of the government would be क्या होगा यहाँ पर? Consequence बता रहे हैं. अगर आपने कोई नेगेटिव चीज को रिजॉल्व नहीं करा, राइट, और इफ sorry, if you did not accept the advice, something positive, अगर आपने कुछ पॉजिटिव नहीं करा तो जो नेगेटिव है वो क्या होगा, वो और भी ज्यादा नेगेटिव हो जाएगा, राइट? सो that would be exacerbated. That means the differences would increase to become even more, to have greater differences, right? So these questions have to be solved taking the entire context into the mind. Okay, students, now let's do next type of questions. Student, this is known as closed test. Closed test में ऐसा आता है, देखिए. Let me 1 second show it to you. It's something like this, students. You would have this paragraph, right? And you have to read the entire paragraph and fill the meaning, the appropriate meaning from the given answer options. Right? So, अभी हमने जो पहले किया था, they were sentences, but they were disconnected sentences. So all you had to do was to understand the meaning in that, with reference to that one statement, just one statement. But here you have to do that for the entire paragraph. Right? So how do you do that, students? You do that by dividing it. Although you divide it, ये आपके लिए one independent statement है, ये आपके लिए one independent statement है, but what would come here would also depend on your understanding of what comes here. What would come here would also depend on your understanding of what comes here. So not that आप haphazard fill करने लग जाओ, अच्छा ये समझ में आ गया, you begin from here. No, there are students who are doing that. There are a lot of students who do that. I know, I fail to understand how can somebody solve like that, but I know so many people who would give you answers to certain things and not in a sequence. So randomly kuch dekhenge, so let me start from here. This probably makes sense to me that what would come here. No, read it, solve it. So first you read the entire paragraph very quickly, understand what the author is trying to convey to you, right? And once you know that what the author is trying to convey, then you take one statement at a time. फिर एक statement को देखिए and then see. अगर नहीं समझ में आ रहा है तो फिर आगे का स्टेटमेंट पढ़ के भी देखिए. Sometimes you have to do that. Okay. So today we will not do this. I have just told you that this is one of the kind of questions. We are not doing it because of time paucity, lack of time, but this is known as closed test. a second, students. Okay. Then students, there is something called odd one out, odd sentence. Okay. Let me just show it to you. Just give me one moment. Just a second, students. Okay. Students, let me just also keep briefing you while I'm looking for that. Actually, this it is in this book. Somehow I not this book is very difficult, very, the page numbers are not clear. But I'll tell you what an irrelevant statement is. So you just listen to me. And I'll just show you in a while also. In the meantime, I'm scrolling down the pages also. So irrelevant statement, students, is when you would be given say it could be asked in various formats. One of the formats most common is that you're given a parajumble, right? You've given a parajumble set of questions, students, and you have to arrange, you're not supposed to arrange them in the correct order. You don't have to tell, so it will be like a mix up, like the way we did the parajumble questions yesterday. There we arranged all the questions, students. Here you are not supposed to arrange the questions. Please understand this. You are supposed to identify which is the odd sentence. So again, students, that's something very simple. If you have to arrange the odd sentences, students, right? So you just have to find out that which idea doesn't fit into the whole structure. Which idea does not fit into the whole structure. So, but even if you don't have to tell them, even if you don't have to tell them the correct order, but somewhere you will have to read all the sentences to identify, okay, that which one goes with this. And sometimes the questions are so difficult that you have to arrange them also in the correct order to understand that which statement will not fit in this context. Are you getting my point? You will have to arrange you don't have to tell them what the order is, A, B, C, D or D, C, A, B, no. But to find the irrelevant statement, if it is very easy, you'll be able to spot out, say, kisi aur cheez ki baat kar rahe hain. But sometimes the answer options are going to be so close. Sorry, the statements given to you would be so close that you will not be able to identify the irrelevant statement, students. You will not be able to identify the irrelevant statement without arranging the remaining sentences in the correct order. Right? तभी आपको समझ में आ पाएगा. So I'm sure you got some ideas to what irrelevant statements are, because I want to talk about one more thing before we call it a day. So yeah, so this was about irrelevant statements, students. Now let me tell you about what is an fact, what is a judgment, what is a conclusion, and what is a reasoning, right? Now look at this, students. Yeah. Students, now please pay attention to this. Please pay attention to this. You can get such questions wherein you are supposed to identify the conclusion, right? You could be asked to identify the fact, the reason, or the premise. You call it the premise. You then conclusion. Right, students? Now listen, look at this. There are clouds in the sky, students. Right? Now this is a fact. Because this is objective. You know, अभी आपको लगेगा अच्छा direct fact है. Exam में the sentences, the questions are going to be such that a fact will not come across as a fact. It might come across as an opinion. You have to ask yourself the way they would word it, right? But you have to ask yourself, is this something objective or is this something subjective? What is objective and subjective? You're given a statement, there are clouds in the sky. If, say, person A and person B are in the same place, can they have a different opinion on this? That whether there are clouds on the sky or not? देखिए, बादल हैं तो हैं और नहीं है तो नहीं है. You can't dispute it. No, you can't have a difference of opinion in this. It is true for everybody. If there are clouds in the sky, there are clouds in the sky for you and there are clouds in the sky for me. Right? This is a fact. Now, therefore, it will rain. This is in this case an opinion. What is this? It is an opinion. And opinions are subjective. Abhi dekhiye, A and B are in the same place. There are clouds in the sky. When A looks up, there are clouds. When B looks up in the sky, there are clouds. But with the same amount of clouds in the sky, utne hi badal hain dono ke liye. One might feel it will rain, the other might feel it will not rain. They are not using scientific data to decide what will rain or not. They are using their judgment, their wisdom. So according to one person, it would rain. According to another person, it might not rain. Isn't it? So because there is a scope for difference in opinion, the last statement becomes an opinion. Ye aapka view hai. This is your view. This is your perspective. This is not a fact. I think it will not rain. You think it will rain. Right? So again, ask this. If it is subjective, it becomes an opinion. If it is objective, it is a fact, it is an evidence, it is a finding, it is a truth, something like that. They will use different words. Now listen to me. Now I'm telling you the difference between a judgment and a conclusion. पहले करते हैं conclusion. अभी देखिए, the person says it will rain, right? He gives a reason for it. Author ने reason दिया है इसके लिए. Reason को बोलते हैं premise. Right? जब author अपने opinion के लिए कोई reason देता है. For example, I say, the government couldn't handle the pandemic. The Indian government couldn't handle the pandemic. That is my opinion. Simply an opinion. But if I give a reasoning for it, I think the government could not handle the pandemic because there was a huge undersupply of medical oxygen. Right? There was a huge undersupply of medical oxygen. I'm giving a reason for my opinion. Whenever you give a reason for your opinion, it becomes a conclusion. So this, if accompanied by this, I'm repeating, this statement, which is an opinion, if it is accompanied by a premise, right, it becomes a conclusion. ठीक है? But if this reasoning is not given, It is only an opinion. It is only a judgment. It is only a judgment. सिर्फ एक judgment है, एक view है. लेकिन एक क्वेश्चन में अगर ऑथर आपको किसी चीज के लिए एक रीजन दे रहा है, फॉर श्योर दैट्स व्हाट ही विल कंक्लूड, राइट? सो एक टिपिकल सीआर आर्ग्यूमेंट में, किसी भी सीआर आर्ग्यूमेंट में आपके पास फैक्ट्स रहेंगे, आपके पास रीजन रहेगा विच इज द प्रेमिस, और आपके पास एक ओपिनियन रहेगी, बट क्योंकि वो ओपिनियन रीजन के साथ अकम्पनीड है, सो इट विल बिकम योर कंक्लूजन, right? And the facts and the reason both will work towards building this conclusion, right? Facts and reason both will work towards building this conclusion. You will be asked to identify it, right? Sometimes students, you could be asked to weaken the conclusion. Conclusion को weaken करो या conclusion को strengthen करो. तो पहले तो आप ये देखेंगे कि what the conclusion is. पहले ये आइडेंटिफाई करेंगे, भाई ये जो क्वेश्चन है इसमें कंक्लूजन है क्या. Once you have identified the conclusion, right? डायरेक्ट अगर स्ट्रेंथन है तो पहले ये आइडेंटिफाई कर लिया कंक्लूजन क्या है, जो भी आंसर ऑप्शन उसको सपोर्ट कर रहा है कंक्लूजन को, राइट? जैसे इस केस में जो हमने दिया था दैट इट विल रेन, देयरफॉर इट विल रेन, इसको कौन सा आंसर ऑप्शन सपोर्ट कर सकता था? फॉर एग्जांपल, this morning the Met Department released its report which said that it will rain today. सपोर्ट कर दिया आपने, फिर बारिश होगी. यही अगर वीकेंड करना होगा आपको, कंक्लूजन को रिवर्स कर दो. व्हाट वाज योर कंक्लूजन? इट विल रेन. यू से उसको रिवर्स करके लिखो, अगर वीकेंड करना है इट विल नॉट रेन. जस्ट राइट डाउन इट विल नॉट रेन. अब जो भी आंसर ऑप्शन इट विल नॉट रेन को सपोर्ट करता होगा, दैट विल बी योर आंसर. आपने कंक्लूजन को वीकन कर दिया. आपका कंक्लूजन है अभी रात हो रही है, अगर आप उसको वीकन करना है, आप ये प्रूफ कर दो कि दिन हो रहा है. यू प्रूव दैट इट इज डे, इट इज नाइट, ऑटोमेटिकली गेट्स वीकेंड, राइट? अगर कभी एक बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट बड़ा कॉमन पैटर्न है ये, कंक्लूजन में कोई रीजन दिया होगा, जैसे फॉर एग्जाम्पल लॉन्ग लाइफ, कंक्लूजन ये है लॉन्ग लाइफ इज बिकॉज ऑफ योगा. एक पूरा आर्ग्यूमेंट है, उसका कंक्लूजन है लॉन्ग लाइफ इज बिकॉज ऑफ योगा, राइट? आपको बोला है वीकन दिस कंक्लूजन, आप क्या करेंगे? ये रिलेशनशिप है कॉज एंड इफेक्ट, ए लीड्स टू बी. ये रिलेशनशिप है ए लीड्स टू बी, विच इज योगा लीड्स टू लॉन्ग लाइफ. यही तो रिलेशनशिप है. आप यहां पर कोई दूसरा रीजन ले आओ, यहां पे कोई दूसरा रीजन ले आओ. फॉर एग्जाम्पल, नॉट योगा बट हर्ब्स. आप जिन लोगों के लिए बोल रहे हैं दैट बिकॉज दीज पीपल डू योगा दे लिव लॉन्ग लाइफ, आप उसको दूसरा रीजन दे दो, नो इट इज बिकॉज ऑफ हर्ब्स. सो एनी आंसर ऑप्शन दैट टॉक्स अबाउट सम ऑल्टरनेटिव रीजन, जैसे इट इज बिकॉज ऑफ हर्ब्स, इट इज बिकॉज ऑफ जेनेटिक फैक्टर, समथिंग लाइक दैट. Long life is because of yoga, this automatically gets weakened, right? Mostly strength and weaken questions आते हैं students. एक क्वेश्चन आएगा आपको assumption question. अब देखिए एक स्टेटमेंट, देखिए एक स्टेटमेंट से बताऊंगी आपको, इससे समझ में आ जाएगा. You will be able to solve any question. One second, students. Read this, students. Greece has given voting rights to all its male citizens only. Therefore, Alex has voting rights. ठीक है? ये आपका conclusion है. Alex has voting rights. Assumption is something which must be true for the conclusion to be true. The conclusion depends on assumption. Assumption is something which must be true for the conclusion to be true, but the author does not mention the conclusion, mention the assumption in the question. Question में author assumption को mention नहीं करेगा, लेकिन वो statement assumption में question में है नहीं. What the author is saying, author just told you this, right? Author just told you this. Okay, so we're just closing it to assumption. Then I have just 2 more points to tell you, and then we'll call it a class. Okay, this is not in the question, but it must be true for the conclusion to be true, and assumption is a reason for the conclusion. Reason होता है वो conclusion के पीछे का. ये बात याद रखना बस. Assumption is something which must be true, जो सही होना चाहिए for the conclusion to be true. इसके पीछे का reason होता है वो. अब देखिए, can you find a missing link? यहाँ पर कौन सी information आनी चाहिए for this conclusion to be true? Can you tell me in the chat box, anybody? What information should come here, students, for this conclusion to be true? Read the whole question, the statement. The assumption here is, or the missing link is, Alex is a Greek male citizen. What is the assumption? यहाँ पे missing link क्या है? That Alex is a Greek male citizen. ये आएगा यहाँ पर. This is the assumption. आप सोचिए, Greece has given voting rights to all its male citizens. Author ये कहते हैं, उसके बाद सीधे कहते हैं, conclude करते हैं कि Alexander के पास voting rights होंगे. क्यों होंगे? इसका reason क्या है? I told you it is a reason. Reason क्या है इस बात का? Why would Alexander have voting rights? Why? Because he is the Greek male citizen. This is the assumption. ठीक है? तो आपको assumption में बस ये check करना है, what information, answer options are there to guide you. What information must be true for the conclusion to be true? इस conclusion के true होने के लिए कौन सी information सही होनी चाहिए, true होनी चाहिए, और क्या वो conclusion के पीछे का reason है? Okay, so it will never be mentioned in the question. You have to find it from the answer options. This is assumption. Then students, there's something called inference. The only difference between inference and assumption is, inference also author does not mention. जैसे assumption mention नहीं होता है ना, ऐसे because assumption है वो mention नहीं करते हैं. ऐसे inference भी given text में mentioned नहीं होता है. It's not mentioned. लेकिन you have to read between the lines and guess करना है that what is true which the author is not saying. What is true which the author is not saying. जो author नहीं कह रहा है लेकिन वो सच है वो बात. अब assumption इसमें ये difference है assumption में कि assumption is a reason behind the conclusion. जहाँ पे आपको assumption question आएगा वहाँ पे कोई conclusion definitely होगा. Inference में it could be plain text, जैसे कुछ statements दे देंगे, वहाँ पे कोई conclusion नहीं होगा. Right? But that is something which the author does not say, but which is true. Not must be true, which is true. For example, I say, I have to go for a party. I'm writing here. I have to go for a party, but I am feeling tired. but I'm feeling tired. Right? या फिर but I don't like the people there in the party. Now, इसमें क्या लिखा गया है? I'm feeling tired. I don't like the, or it could be I don't like the people in the party. इसका inference क्या है? जो मैं नहीं कह रही हूँ, what I'm not saying, but is certainly could be true. Not certainly could be true. That could be true is that I don't want to go to the party. I don't feel like going to the party. But I'm not saying I don't feel like going to the party. I'm saying I'm tired. I don't like the people there. But what do you infer? What can you infer? That this person is not interested in going to the party. Right? So the reason nahi hai iske piche ka. I mean, this is not a conclusion. I'm feeling tired is not the conclusion. Conclusion hi nahi hai, to conclusion ke piche ka reason to obviously nahi hai. But that's something that you can deduce. Inferences deduce. Okay? आप इस बात से क्या वो निकाल सकते हैं, क्या डिडक्शन कर सकते हैं इसको, which the author is not saying but is true, right? Then students, you have just last 2 points. एक summary. You'll be asked to summarize something, right? आपको एक paragraph दिया होगा, उसका summary दिया होगा. Summary की बस ये features होते हैं students. If it is a summary, it has to be about the central primary purpose of the passage. क्वेश्चन का जो आरसी का जो प्राइमरी पर्पस है, राइट, वो उसका पैसेज होना चाहिए, मतलब आई मीन उसकी समरी होनी चाहिए. उस समरी में वो प्राइमरी पर्पस लिखा होना चाहिए, वो सेंट्रल थीम लिखी होनी चाहिए, मे बी इन डिफरेंट वर्ड्स बट इट शुड बी रिटन, राइट. दैट इज वन. एंड सेकेंडली, it should have all the important points mentioned, like it's an essence. And last is paragraph completion, students, right? Last is paragraph completion. So for that, you have to read the whole sentence, so whole passage, and find what would be the logical extension of this idea. अभी तक ये बात कह दी है, तो इसके बाद में क्या आएगा? जैसे अभी तक प्रॉब्लम्स बता रहे हैं, आंसर ऑप्शन में एक रिकमेंडेशन है, तो प्रॉब्लम्स के बाद रिकमेंडेशन आएगी टू सॉल्व दैट प्रॉब्लम, isn't it? अभी तक हम we are telling about, we are contrasting something. तो paragraph completion में हम ये बोलेंगे कि okay, so these two things are opposed to each other. So logical extension देखना है, simple. The answer options are very simple in paragraph completion, students. This is one of the easiest questions. Summary से भी ज़्यादा आसान paragraph completion होता है, because it is easy to find out, and usually the kind of questions come बहुत broad होते हैं. I don't know, something to do the way they are structured. Usually, I've seen this. I'm telling you from the CAT point of view. Otherwise, then you have to find out the logical extension of something. Okay? But यहाँ तक है, उसके बाद logically what comes next? So that's all from my side, students. Today, today is the last session. Do all this, students, and ensure you're practicing this regularly. You use this CAT book by Miss Meenakshi Upadhyay, Arun Sharma, and Meenakshi Upadhyay, ma'am. Always ask your friends who are preparing for CAT, your seniors, whoever, for this book. It is known as How to Prepare for Verbal Ability and RC for CAT, Arun Sharma, Meenakshi Upadhyay. Okay. And lastly, students, I just want to tell you one more thing. This is my email ID. This is my email ID, students. I help students with so I don't know what stage, or what your career prospects are, but I help students in writing statement of purpose with GD group discussion preparation, general knowledge, general awareness, personality development, and CV building skills, right? I help people writing their CVs. So these are the few services that I provide. This is independent of the organization that I currently, represent. So I'm here representing an organization called Temple of Learning. So they are only into aptitude training. But this is my personal, because I'm a freelancer, this is a portfolio of services that I provide to my clients. So basically anything that concerns students and admission tests, right? So I help with that. Anytime you need any help, you can always reach out to me on pinakinegi@gmail.com. Okay, students? And this is my WhatsApp number. I am available on this number as well, 7895825508. Okay. So on that note, students, I will take your leave. I wish you all the very best for your placements, and I hope you are able to get into the company or the organization of your choice, students. If you need any help with the PI personal interview, in case you clear these rounds, you can always reach out to me on this. Okay.